Whoops. What's going on, fam? I'm back in action. It's been, 2 months since I did my last stream with Dipcatcher and Crispy on FlexNet. Where's FlexNet? Don't know, but Richard just beat the SEC officially. Boom, stamp it. Things are looking pretty good over here, especially on the Ethereum front. I'm really liking Tom Lee on stage from Fundstrat saying I'm going to buy $250 million of Ethereum. Oh, man, it's a good time to be in crypto. Lots of signs of life across the board. The macro's looking pretty sweet. The dollar just hit like a major low, and so it's really kind of coinciding with a big what if the dollar spends the next 500 days sideways, what that could mean for crypto in the larger, broader altcoin space. I've seen some this is like unprecedented price action on Bitcoin, and for that, I think we're about to see a massive rotation into Ethereum. And with any bit of luck, those guys with huge ETH treasuries, PulseChain, cough, cough, we might see some money start to bridge into the chain here at some point. And so today I have with me the divine Whitney Magic. She's I'm pretty proud of this girl. She's definitely one of the standout celebrities in the PulseChain space. And we've gotten the privilege of meeting each other a few times at different events, and always impressed by her professionalism and what she brings. And, she's doing very well on her own with her own business that's been built around, the broader Ethereum space now for, a couple years. And, we were talking, and we thought maybe today would be a good day to, now that we've gotten past like a lot of the regulatory pitfalls, just kind of talk about what's working for her on onboarding into PulseChain, and then we'll just go through a bunch of bullet points on different projects, what to look for, how do you tell if a founder is legit or not, how do you tell if a community is strong, and then kind of like the evolution of these different coins and the tokenomics that they're bringing, and these different iterations as like the communities kind of evolve and divide. And it's a good time to be involved in this space. So, I see some familiar faces in the chat. Thank you guys for coming. I think we got 190 live so far. So, I think we could do better. Let's get it up into like the 600-700s, and we'll be doing just fine. Without any further ado, I'm going to bring up Whitney. How you doing?
Hey, Axis. I'm great. Glad to have me.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to see you. We were talking a little bit. I don't know if you want to kick this off with what are you thinking about this Ethereum? Like, you want to kick it off with that? You said you think Ethereum might be a little bit bullish right now?
Yeah, just a little bit. But I think it's also so interesting of like, I love hearing the devil's advocate, and especially because I deal with a lot of like onboarding like women of like all sorts of all walks of life. And especially in the crypto world, like the masses can definitely still drop into the side of like, does Ethereum still have life? And so I love the question of like, should we still be bullish about Ethereum, and kind of leaning into some of that energy there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if we want to talk, honestly and brutally about Ethereum price action, there's a lot of folks that don't think that Ethereum's been performing, per previous cycles, but it's actually exactly on track with where it should be in the cycle. And there's certain charts that are saying this to us. Like, one of them is one that I just remembered the other day and posted about it on X. It was the ETH to gold ratio. And it's literally replaying out the same exact pattern where it hits a low, and then some time passes and it makes a local high, and then it comes back down and spikes the low one last time, but closes above that level in gold ounces. And then it never looks back. And we just got done completing that spike down. And so like, I think looking at the broader frame, now we're starting to see more people come on stage and talk about how basically the whole treasury narrative. So popularized by Michael Saylor, the Bitcoin treasury narrative, and then, fractionalizing it and creating treasury companies that can now also be invested in. It's creating like a stratified effect of value accrual and then rotation. And so now it's like almost like a Rube Goldberg machine that's off chain. And it's really interesting because what this kind of sets up nicely for Ethereum is a situation where these treasury companies can do the same over here, but they can also stake the ETH and earn native yield on chain. And so it's just kind of like going to be a completely different dynamic where, you know, now we're going to have like a dual system where like there's going to be, of course, the pay for Ethereum from the treasury companies, but then there's going to be on-chain factors as well that's going to lead into compound into potentially even bigger returns. So I'm excited about Ethereum. It's actually trading right now above a major weekly resistance around like $2,600. So like 2550 was the level. We were like fighting that level for many, many months, and now we're today trading above it. And it looks like it's the same exact pattern as we saw in the last cycle, but it just took a lot longer to play out. So
and I think a lot of everything, the timing delays, is just the macro landscape that we've been seeing. I think it's basically just the macro landscape. Would you say so?
Yeah. I also think that there's been a concerted effort to suppress Ethereum for a long time, for a lot of different reasons. Because if you think back to like 2017, that cycle was predicated on ICO mania, and which was largely fruitless until things like Chainlink and Hex and Aave and the 2020 cycle. Like there was certain actual real DeFi that got built later on, and then you had like, so ICOs I would also kind of relate to like the monkey JPEGs, like the NFT stuff. Like there's been waves of kind of scrappier money grab style stuff built on Ethereum that we needed to wash a lot of that bad money out. And that was all coinciding with the end of the mining era for Ethereum. So like the change from proof of work to proof of stake totally altered the economic landscape for Ethereum. So in Ethereum, it's gone through like 2 or 3 times as much turmoil in this short period of time. So I think it's actually holding up tremendously well considering all the different factors that have played into it.
Yeah. And then we just have the competition of Solana getting so much more attention and momentum share with memes. So I think there's been a bundle of that, but then still, if we want to collectively zoom out, institutions are still buying more ETH ETFs. Trump in his WLF is there's, I think, ETH, last I saw this morning, I want to say, ETH is the second largest position, right? And so there's still this bullish nature where it's like people who are moving the needle know what's going on.
Yes, and you just reminded me when you said that Solana's like ETF did like basically no volume. I think it was like $30 million of opening day, and Ether was doing like hundreds of millions of volume. And so it just shows you that there's this huge discrepancy in the mind share of what people actually care about. And I think Ethereum's actually like got a real foothold here. Whereas like I would even put XRP above Solana in a lot of ways. And so I think, you know, personally, you know, this is for anybody listening in, like personally, I missed a lot of the Solana meme coin mania. Like, and it was like a personal decision of not wanting to be involved in just like pump and dumps and stuff. And so I think that's kind of what's one of the edges that, and I'm not saying that there's not money to be made there, right, either. So I don't want to turn people off if like they heard that. They're like, oh, well, this guy only cares about long-term value investing. Well, not really. I mean, there's that stuff going on PulseChain too, and Ethereum for that matter. Pepe led the charge, right? In 2023, it was like, wow, I actually learned a lot from that, and it informed how I launched axisALiVE, the token. And so I'm not totally against memes in any which way. I think it's cool to have that kind of culture, and like to see some of these coins just go nuts is amazing. But the point being that Ethereum is like in a league of its own compared to something like Solana. And it's for that very reason that there's no substance there, in my opinion.
No substance in Solana, you think?
In Solana, and comparatively to what we have built out on Ethereum after, you know, over a decade of innovation, right? And some of that's starting to roll over into PulseChain too, where you're seeing like things that you could not do on Ethereum because the fees were so high. You can do on PulseChain effectively, and we're seeing some of that with like the printer space. I don't know if you wanted to maybe touch on like how that space is kind of evolving on PulseChain and where it started and where it's going.
Yeah, totally. I'd mentioned to you right before this, I've been having a lot of fun in the printers. And for anyone who isn't aware, and honestly, this has been a really great onboarding tool for me of bringing people into PulseChain, is because even we saw this with Hex, is like everyone wants free money. And with printers, by holding certain coins, you're dropped in every single couple hours, a few coins. This can be whatever you're holding. It drops in Pulse, wrapped Ethereum, PulseX, stablecoins, whatever that coin dictates that it wants to do. And so I've been having a lot of fun playing within the RSI ecosystem on that front. But within that space with the printers, this is something that wouldn't be able to exist on Ethereum because gas fees, and like every single time that they're dropping money into our wallets as the holders, they're having to pay the gas fees. So the benefit that we have of being on PulseChain is having those capabilities. Of course, the developers can develop and maneuver with all the gas fees changing at different times, but also we in turn, then we get free money. And Richard has also shown us just how much people love that energy of like freeness. And I've been able to get a lot more attention than I realized around printers when you speak about like the layman's of crypto of like, hey, I'm getting this free money. And the most common question that I'll ask people is like, hey, well, they're like, how do I do this? And I was like, have you heard of PulseChain? Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, can I do this on XRP?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, sorry, but I can teach you with how to get on into PulseChain. And that's been enough to be able to, especially some of the ladies in my world who may have been dragging their heels to make the extra clicks and get into PulseChain. It's helping them really drive the needle of like, I need to get in. And I also want this free money. I don't want to miss out on these opportunities.
How do you find that that's different from when you try and sell Hex to people now?
Ooh, I mean, the daily gratification, the fact that I can show, like, I show screenshots of just like 24 hours, I made free money by being off at the beach. And everyone's like, excuse me, what? And then running the math too, to be like, I can make this much today, but let's multiply it out by a month. And that mindset, seeing the passive streams, that really drops in for people. I think that Hex works in ways, but it doesn't work with the short-term gratification that people want to see, that stickiness. And also like, I get to choose what I want to do with it. So I can compound and like buy more of the printers because that's really what I love doing. Or I could peel it off and pay myself. And so it allows the holders to be able to figure out what they want to do and also like what they value at this moment in the market too.
Yeah, there's definitely power in being able to use your money that you're earning on a daily basis to DCA into other things, to give you leverage into other things without having to bring more capital in, for sure.
Yeah. And it makes crypto fun again, because then like I can get that capital to buy more printers. Like Secret is one of my favorites that I've been buying up a lot of. But like also, if I don't want to buy Secret, I can be like, wait, I have this money now to go buy more of like the latest coin that I do want to buy. And it gives you the space without like, you feel very abundant naturally, just because like you have this money that you get to figure out what to do with. And it's just constant choice and being like, wow, I'm actually being responsible and like continuously building that like investor identity.
A couple things. Number one is the thing that made Hex so, it reminds me so much of 2020, 2021 Hex, when everybody was looking at their staker app and they're seeing the number go up every day.
Yeah.
Now the difference is like nowadays, like price has been pretty stagnant for long enough now that you're just not getting that. But in the printer systems, like you're actually getting unit accumulation at a fast enough clip that you're seeing actual real returns on a short-term basis. So for all the Hex OGs out there that are patiently waiting, the day that we actually start seeing massive price appreciation is the day you'll see that energy return. And you could see potentially like a movement, a rotation out of some of these other things that, you know, some of the people out there are allergic to. And we'll get that back, but not until, you know, the community kind of comes together and we get rid of some of these big dumpers that are still, you know, lurking in Hex. Or we had a guy move 300 million Hex today. And he's been an issue on the Pulse and PulseX charts for a couple of weeks. But I think this is going to be a marking generational low in the system, where the number 3 biggest sacrifice wallet is actually leaving the system. So it's it's very interesting to watch. The second piece of this was, how do you defend your onboards from printer systems where they buy the printer at a high price and it tops, and how do you make sure that they're aware of how to protect themselves in a situation where the printer is losing value and the rewards are not going to be able to keep up? Or what are some signs that you might see early on where, like, okay, volume's starting to taper off? Or how do you approach that with onboards?
Yeah. So yeah, great question. So this is where I've done enough in the OG Web Chef ecosystem. I think that they've done a lot of good trailblazing for printers in general, but I don't and I have a few of them, but I don't particularly love playing the most over there. Instead, for me, the RSI ecosystem is one that I've really been fond of, because I've been able to tune in more towards the team's vision. So I know we were speaking about just like visions and being able to spot communities that are like trash and treasure in the space. And I'm not saying people are trash, but I'm just seeing, for myself, I look at what is the vision of the teams, and within the RSI ecosystem with Secret and Hidden, they really strive themselves on like 1% ROI daily. And I like particularly the consistency, because I find also like you get less people who want to just like chase yield. And I find in the OG Web Chef ecosystem, if anyone sees like the price go up and down dramatically, it's a lot of times people who are chasing yield. And that's one way that I find a lot of like onboards would get wrecked, is because they're like, wow, a 28% day. And it's like, yes, but then also that coin's going to drop in value once that yield dries up. So I really I teach people not to chase yield, instead go for consistency, because, and also like having communities that have really strong holders. So that's what I found to work really well in that ecosystem with the RSI, where people are like, we want longevity. We want to build something that could potentially be like a lifetime thing of like, we're holding these printers and they get to work. Yeah, that's kind of my vibe, is like consistency over exponentiality.
I don't know a ton about that ecosystem, but I do know the people that founded it. They were previous boardroom members that graduated out of my place and moved on and did bigger and better things, which is awesome to see. I love when I see old members like move on and do crazy cool shit. And I credit the guys that are in the boardroom every day. Like they, especially in the past, like we really worked hard together to try to figure out this space. I remember in the very beginning of PulseChain, pretty much everybody, if it wasn't a Richard Hart core ticker, there was not a lot of support for it. But the landscape now has completely changed, and now you have like many different sub communities that are doing amazing things and creating like solid price floors versus the core tickers, which is great because that's a way of storing, your economic energy in something that lives on top of something that's already really great. So that's kind of my closing thoughts on that. Is there any other, well, let me say one other thing too, because this is important to me. When it comes to like seeking founders and projects and ecosystems, it can be a deep well, and you can get kind of lost in there. And like, there's things that launch every day. But I think at this point, there are definitely people that stand out to me being in the space long enough. And so if you're new or you're getting onboarded from someone like Whitney or myself, like, just feel free to like ask, vetted community members, like who they also look up to and see potential in too, because we already have insight of being in here for many, many years. And so we know who's doxed and who's been building and wants sustainable like price charts for the long term. And a lot of those like speak for themselves. So like things that come to mind is like the grays, like PTGC, UFO, X. Obviously I like our stuff with the Solid Index, with SOLIDX and Axis. And we take definitely a different approach from a lot of the other systems, because we have so much manual firepower. It's just like something that we'll maybe dive into here later on, just talking about like kind of how layered it can be, to help make sure that we are providing the right incentives to make sure that you want to come in. One of the biggest incentives to come into SOLIDX is that it's got $18 million of liquidity backing it. So it's like, that's the biggest non-Richard ticker. That's virtually just a Richard ticker that does not have the liabilities that the Richard tickers have. And so you kind of get the benefit of both worlds, and it acts like a gateway between those and us. So it's just a different mechanics that are operating. Some of them are manual, some of them are automated, right? And so it's like, there's a lot to learn here, and that's, I think, the importance of finding a strong group of people to come into commune with and try to learn all this stuff. And if you can get excited about it, there's a lot of financial gain to be had there.
Yeah. I would love to hear, sorry, my Wi-Fi has been breaking in and out. So I heard bits and bobs, but I think I got the most of it. But I'm curious with you, with like founding and developing so many different like coins and being part of these communities. What has been some of like the elements that you've looked to as to building like benevolent communities and like people to have long-term vision?
Well, I learned a little bit from Hex. I think that having a time component is a super huge key. And also, so what am I saying? If there's some sort of locking and burning going on, that's like a huge key. Because don't want something to hyperinflate because it can become unsustainable, especially if one of your original holders goes rogue. So one thing you can't ever totally predict is an OG holder that has a large position size that goes rogue. And I've seen it in my coin before where, you know, people got in really early and they cause problems down the road. That always kind of sorts itself out so long as there's no like inflation or not any serious inflation. So I think being deflationary is key. What else? So the time component, what else is important? You know, let's see what else. You can't really control the human so much, but you can definitely look at the data and know, is this thing creating more revenue? So if it's creating more revenue for itself, and this is kind of the route that some of these systems you're talking about have done, where like they're creating like there's a tax structure involved in there somewhere, and it's creating revenue that can then refuel the base LPs, and that's important because if that's always on a net positive trend, then there's always going to be more liquidity there over the long term, as long as like bots are transacting, humans are transacting. So I think that's an important piece. And if that's not being done at the contract level, it needs to be done manually by the market maker. And so you'll see different approaches, but that main point there is to keep an eye on like that V2 PulseX info tab, so that you can go in there and you can see how liquidity changes over time. So you can act to the best of your knowledge. When things are low liquidity and they look like they're at a bottom, that's the best time to be interested in something. There's more that'll come to mind as we go forward, but what do you think about all that stuff?
I think it's also great just to acknowledge when we're in the space for the ecosystem, it's like all these sub little coins that we have are also all hitting, we're all going through PulseX. So it's all just adding more scarcity to PulseX in general, which obviously we all know, but like that's the benefit, like go off build, go off innovate in the space, because in turn you're going to be helping PulseX and you're going to be helping the ecosystem.
Also, if you can get a roadmap from somebody and they've actually accomplished things on the roadmap before, that's usually a good sign. In the case of us over with the Solid Index guys, the Fire Whale is not messing around. He's backed his coin with like was $8 to $10 million. So it's 18 million total, but it's like $8 million to $10 million on any given day based on price fluctuations of backing value. That's the base. Good luck finding enough SOLIDX to dump the price chart. You know, there's not enough USD value of it out there to actually move it down. So you can actually calculate with under certain conditions and parameters, like, oh, you literally can't take the price to zero. Like, as a matter of fact, I don't think any single holder of SOLIDX could even move the price down like 20% today if they nuked it all in one shot, because there's just so much liquidity there. So that's very comforting, right?
Yeah.
You can actually mathematically figure this out, right?
Yeah.
But on top of that, then he's working on a casino, the first ever benevolent casino. So just by holding SOLIDX on its own, if the casino goes live and then people start playing the game, there's the fees that are accrued through that system, then gets fed back to SOLIDX holders just by holding the coin. It's also going to have staking. He's also wants to bring on a debit card, fiat on and off ramp. And with like all this talk around, and this is a guy that can do it because he's successful in the real world in his own endeavors, and has these banking partnerships, and has the licensing required where he's based out of to actually launch casinos. So it's all, you know, legal, right? So it's pretty cool to be on the same team as somebody like that, we're taking a different approach, right? But it's still the same mechanics, whether you're doing it on chain or off chain. It's still the same mechanics. It's long-term price floors and long-term vision, and something that's not going away, something that's backed by a lot of real money. And then when these buy and burns start kicking up on that particular system, like not only are you going to be earning rewards, but it's going to be buying and burning itself too. So it could be very parabolic in a world where PulseChain, let's say Ethereum goes, and then PulseChain starts to go, and all the PulseChain derivatives start to go. Like, and then you have these all these other, you know, printer systems and sub communities built on top of that are buying and burning their own supplies. Like, it's going to be pretty crazy. Some of the altcoins on PulseChain are going to go absolutely bananas. Just based on the math, you can figure this out now. So that's like exciting in and of its own right. It's just, yeah, these are some of the things that we're thinking about, right? Look for roadmaps. Look, you know, I know things in software take a long time. but you get what you pay for. And I think the guys that put a lot of value on the line up front or show a very long history of being consistent are like your biggest tells.
Yeah. And this is the innovation side is, I think, also just so unique too, of like being one of ones and front running on that front. The longevity. Yeah. I think that's gonna be one of the exciting things that does come up of just seeing how, when PulseChain happens, when we get those pumps, how the greater world is going to affect and adopt PulseChain as well.
So on the topic of the Goldilocks zone of PulseChain,
yeah,
I anticipate there's going to be a period where Ethereum is like ripping. It's like going up, 30 to 50% every other week. And it's just going to keep going and going and going. And in that world, if at any rate, people are saying, oh, PulseChain has this huge ETH treasury. Oh, wait, but there's also these other 3 or 4 OG Genesis whales as well. And they're all kind of starting to bridge in around the same time. That's going to cause like a mass movement of some rotation of capital to try to chase those returns. And we saw it with the launch of PulseChain, where the bridge was backed up for days because there was so much money trying to flood into the chain to capture the launch pump. And so that was like a test. That was like a taste test of what's possible. And in an environment where you're seeing, and this is me speculating a little bit, but it's also based on past evidence. It's like in an environment where you're starting to see, tens of millions of dollars flood into the bridge, or thousands of users per week. They're going to be looking for any chart long-term on PulseChain that has long-term sustainable price floors, that has communities around them, that looks like they're starting to approach like key levels on the Fibonacci, or like they're starting to recover a little bit, but they're still down bad enough that they're still good buys. And it's going to take very little input from these players coming in to target these different projects, and they're just going to go up really, really fast. It really will be a panacea of crazy vertical charts. I think it's going to be like almost like looking at a bunch of geysers in the desert. They're just like, it's just going to be like popping off left and right. Yeah, I'm excited to see that day, and I do believe it's coming. It's going to come on the back of probably Hex making a big ass move first. I'm pretty sure of that it's going to be Hex first, but that's my speculation.
I think it's always been Hex first.
For sure. Yeah. Just think about to this last move. Last year we got like a 7x on Hex, and then it's just like, and that was like so violent, and like it almost felt like you couldn't punish the sellers hard enough. Like it was just like a volcano erupting. Again, another taste test of what's to come. This guy's dumping this Hex today, but it's still, I'm looking at it right now, it's holding the parabola. So I don't know. I would say you guys don't be underexposed to that one. Hey, what do you think about, we never got to talk about this. What do you think about the changes in emissions to Hex? And you could throw Ink in there too. Like reducing the APRs and doing that rate cut.
So I kind of don't have a fully formulated thought around it, but it hasn't been as appealing for the staking component, which is like the original part of Hex. I think Hex is more so here for the pumpamentals at this point. But maybe I'm also missing some things here. So do you have any other thoughts around that?
Well, I was kind of setting you up for like just this kind of thought process of, for the very reason which you just said, which is it's not that attractive, is why I can actually pump now. Yeah. Because if APRs are now reduced, less people are staking, less people are probably buying, but that means that a coordinated group of market makers can come in and really move it up, and there just won't be the same sell pressure there. And the longer this goes on, the more runway you actually have for Hex to do what you just said, which is like go super hardcore pumpamentals mode, where it just like keeps going up and up and up and up. And it's going to be crazy brutal to the upside. And I don't want to be out of Hex when that happens. Same for Ink. I think, part of the reason why PulseChain, PulseX, to a lesser extent, Ink, suffered in price performance this last few years was because the inflation was so high. But now that that's been reduced, it's going to it's definitely going to set up for a shortage of supply. So like we're seeing this same kind of concept happening in Ethereum right now, where now there's all of a sudden this big narrative around ETH treasuries, and they're going to be buying a lot of the supply up. And there's 120 million out there, and there's already like 1.3-ish million in ETH treasuries. That'll easily double. And by the time it's tripled, the ETH price will be over 3,300, which means it'll be over 1 gold ounce, which means that chart will be ready to go. And it'll be like crazy. It's just going to be, it's going to be like a wrecking ball going through, and just there's a short squeeze that's going to occur. There's more shorts on Ethereum now than there's ever been. So there's obviously deliberate suppression happening, and you could extend that to our chain too. And part of that deliberate suppression, I think, was high APRs for some time, right? But it was twofold. It was to reward the people that believed in Richard early, even though the price didn't go up, people's unit accounts were going up. But now that that's kind of stabilizing, it's going to create like a new base or a new equilibrium where we can start on a fresh ground at low prices, where everybody's kind of on the same playing field all over again. And that makes me excited, because it's a much better environment for onboarding now, where, you know, the first 2,000 guys I got into Hex between day 1 and day like 120 of the previous cycle don't just get to like eat dividends for the rest of their life, right? So it's like definitely cool to see that the system's like maturing.
Yeah. And this is where I always like to say, like, Richard likes to reward the loyal. And it's like, we have all these dip opportunities. And if you want to be loyal and buy right now when it feels so unattractive, then come on in, please, gladly. And I found for my ladies too, for anyone who doesn't know, I have like 200 ladies in my community. And in my crypto community, they're all like learning. They've all been learning. This is like usually the first cycle that they're taking seriously. And I'm like, come on in and let me show you PulseChain. And they've been having a lot of fun within that. And I find that typically around like, and I'm sure you've probably seen this with some of your students too, is like around, I would say like the 6th to 7th month of like really welcoming crypto into your world and like building out your conviction and like knowing these things. That's when you get to relax and be like, oh, I've seen some of these hype and fall cycles. I've seen what goes on within myself. I understand what's actually treasure, and I have extra money and I want to DCA into this and not that. And I think it takes an extra level of discernment once you get into crypto to then realize like what you actually value. And I find periods like this, when Hex has these dip opportunities, where it's like, we know this is where money is really made.
Mm-hmm. I do agree with that. I actually had a previous person reach out to me, a previous member reach out to me, someone I know in real life now. And he's just like, man, I'm tired of riding the roller coaster. I ride it up, it becomes worth more, and I never do it. I don't know what to do with it. And then it comes back down. It's like, okay. And this is a guy and this could be true of a lot of people in crypto. I don't know. I would like to think that this is probably true of a lot of people, just people going through their lives, you know, going through personal changes and career changes. And like, this has been a long time. It's been 5 years for Hex, right? It's a lot happens in 5 years. And so people kind of see these gains come and go. And just through being involved and invested in it and watching a cycle or two, definitely gives you context and perspective that you otherwise would not have going into this next wave. And so I think, you know, it's on us, the teachers, to basically bring them into the fold and hold their hand and help them execute a few things. And then a lot of people are hands-on learners with this stuff. You do it a few times, it becomes not so alien, and then you feel a little bit better about it. So it's definitely not as hard as people make it out to be, but there is so much context that has to be understood first in order to do things safely, I would say. Yeah. What would you say to that?
There's
how
definitely
do you how do you quickly get somebody from, I'm coming into crypto, maybe they go through one wave, and then how do you make sure that by that time that second wave's at its bottom, they're ready to go?
I find, okay, there's two parts where I'm like, first off, they need to get their foundation in. Their like foundational education to have like their bearings. For women, I find a lot of times they'll go through waves where like they feel so overwhelmed, where they're like, I feel behind, I feel overwhelmed. They'll probably hit this like little paralysis point around taking action and knowing what to do, because it's just the nervousness of being a beginner. And I find the big reminders are like, you can constantly change your investing like thesis and plans as you know more. Like it's not perfect. It's not going to be set and forget forever. You keep on learning more layers. And it's really reminding people of like, it's safe to be a beginner. It's safe to not know. It's safe to ask questions. It's safe to be overwhelmed at certain moments. But at the end of the day, like the goal is to keep coming back to simplicity. And so if we like go down rabbit holes, but I like to pull them back. So I constantly would like to like when I'm teaching of like finding those edges for people to be like, okay, you feel a little bit expanded. Let's ground it back in with what you know. And I find that edge helps like expand their the layers that we like speak about of like as a crypto investor. And then that way you can be like, I can see more pitfalls and I can also own my way. And then I can be more grounded in the whole process. So it's like a lot of nervous system, I think, like calibration, but it's also like the information plus nervous system plus like decision fatigue. It's this just like beautiful dance that I find for a lot of people. But yeah, I think just in crypto, like it's all tech. Yes, it's all like numbers, but we really just need to bring some humanness to it or else
100%.
you get burnt out, overwhelmed, feel alone. You just need that little voice in your head of like, you're doing fine.
So if any of your women are watching you right now, has Whitney reached the transcendent moment of being numb to the chart?
I think we have a few in the audience right now. We'll find out about that one.
Yeah. I'm numb to it on the downside, but I think when things start making new all-time highs again, it'll be pretty hard to go to sleep at night again. I remember that pretty strongly.
You said lows or highs?
I think the lows don't bother me. It's when things are going up is when I have a hard time sleeping and I'm working all the time. Yeah.
It's the 2 a.m. checking euphoria, being like, oh, I'm right. Oh, we're doing good. We're having fun. And it's like have to get, at least for someone who's like bringing people into the space, I feel like a little bit of like behindness where I'm like, oh, I haven't brought enough people in. It's like, you're doing fine. Chill.
Isn't that such like a catch-22? It's like trying to onboard when things are really looking not that good is so hard, but it's the only time that I actually feel somewhat good about it, right? It's like Pulse makes a new low. It's like, well, I know this sucks, guys, but okay, could drop another 37%, but that's where you want to be interested. But meanwhile, like my viewership and attendance is at all-time lows. It's like, no, this is not how you play.
Yeah. I find as because like I'll onboard obviously a lot of people during the highs. And it's a little reminder of like, it's a little thing of like, don't get them wrecked that much. And then as long as they keep coming in and staying in the game, then like they're going to learn the wisdom pieces they needed. And like, that's the real hurdle is like, can you keep them in past that like 1 month euphoria?
Mm-hmm. So what I just want to talk a little bit briefly about like your onboarding strategy, kind of like what's worked for you in your business and like kind of what's your business called? What's it about? Talk to me about it. You know, for the people out there listening that, you know, I know a little bit about it, but I would like to know more.
Yeah. So my company is called Queen of Millions, and we help bring women into crypto, but seeing it very much like for me, myself, when I came into crypto 5 years ago, I was like going around to a lot of meetups and things when I was living like in Bali. It was a very crypto centric place, but I was having a really hard time of finding women that really resonated with me and like saw a little spiritual component to crypto of like, we're using our dollars intentionally. So that was also why I really spoke to like the DeFi world. But also like we're using our money energy as all like a tool of like building a greater future for ourselves. And so I found crypto to be like one of the greatest personal development tools of my, like to make me a better human overall. And I knew that there were other women in the space that wanted that as well. So in Queen of Millions, I teach them like all the way from A through Z around like crypto 101, weekly calls, like we've in-house macroeconomists, like we have all the data, plus we bring a lot of humanness to it. And so like women can share about like how they're shifting their relationship to money and at the same time literally be making moves to also build that wealth for themselves. And so I really, when I'm bringing a lot of ladies into the space, I'm really targeting of the like, yes, we're building freedom for ourselves. Yes, we're being on the right side of history. But also there's patterns and we're in this like ever evolving world, which is very much like the internet, the .com boom. And that certain analogy really starts to hit people where they see like, great, we're like, how do we align ourselves to innovation? And so I have found also that's why PulseChain works really well too, of people understand they want to be early. Also, once they start to understand about liquidity, they understand they're like, this is designed to pump. I want to set myself, my family, all these people free, but I want to do it with intentionality. I want to understand what I'm doing. So it's a lot of like, how do we build confidence so you can dramatically just shift your relationship to money?
Mm-hmm. Totally agree with that. That's what also drew me to crypto was the, so in the beginning, I got into mining, and the reason was because I wanted to break free of the fiat system. You know, I watched, like many of you, Zeitgeist or some of these other documentaries that talked about the corruption in the financial system as it was. And then, you know, you had this thing, crypto, where you could legally print money. That was like a mind-blowing moment for me. I was like, wow, humans can have their own money that's not government money, and we can print it and we won't go to jail. Like, that was like a mind-blowing moment for me. I'm like, holy crap, this is an actual escape valve for personal growth and, you know, man changing his relationship with his time, his money, and his government. And you know, that's a Richard quote, but I really do love that. It's and then that kind of, when it started to happen for me, because it wasn't a straight up trajectory, it was like a lot of ups and downs for the first like 4 years. And then Hex happened and it changed my life, right? And so in that moment, you know, I remember driving to the first Hex meetup in Vegas that Maddie put on. There was like 300 or 400 people there. They were all Hexicans that had experienced this exponential change in their lives financially. But what people don't understand is, like, when you're going through that, it's actually changing your physiology, your mental framework. Like, once you feel so secure financially, it starts to unlock different restrictive components of your own mind, or like limitations you put on yourself just because you're experiencing financial changes. And I'm not saying money's everything. Money's an amplifier, but it's more like the mode of the money you're using, and like that intentional use of this new type of money that's beneficial to pools of people instead of like, you know, like the top of the pyramid, right? The all-seeing eye. So it was just like a completely different relationship there. And I totally agree with that. And I've seen it in my own members, like some of these guys, you know, some of these guys and girls for that matter, they've went through huge moves up in the crypto world, and it alters your place in the world and gives you purpose and can give you a method to like help improve your situation or your friends or families around you or the world around you. I always use the example of the guy that took $2 million out of Hex in the last top and built a veterinary clinic. Mm-hmm. And that's just one story, right? There's so many ways to like that crypto can help people in big and powerful ways. And that's why I'm in here. It sounds like that's why you're in here. And that's very exciting to me.
Yeah. And I find with like good-hearted women, so I usually attract in like a lot of intuitive ladies, but like it's like a powerful, ambitious energy, but it's also like good-hearted and like a little bit empathic. And with that, sometimes because like myself and a lot of my other ladies can be really pretty big givers, and we may not necessarily know what we want to like. I didn't know what I wanted to do with money. So there was a little part of me like back at the beginning of crypto where I was like, I want freedom, but I also don't really know what my desires are with more freedom. Like, yes, travel the world. Yes, more space. Yes, leave these things. But it wasn't until for me that I got space that I realized I could actually tap into like, what was that true thing that I really wanted to create? And little did I know also like my true calling and like mission and everything was going to be in crypto. And teaching women within crypto to really like claim more of that like bigness of what they really want, but also like you were saying around having more money equals like optionality, space. Your mind gets to unlock and go to different levels where you're like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be going down, but I need to get the money and then figure it out from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't there a whole other host of issues that pops up when you obtain that taste of freedom the first time? It's pretty crazy. It's like, more money, more problems. No, I'm just kidding. It's not like that at all. It can be,
like,
but just for glimpses.
It can be.
For glimpses. Which is why it's good to have strong, you know, people around you, like a good support group. Because sometimes people have these huge. Look at was it James Wynn or whatever, the guy that wrote an account up to $100 million and then ran it all the way back down to zero. Like, what a waste! What a wasted opportunity.
Yeah. For yourself, when you experienced that first wave of exponentiality, what was there a confronting thing for you around having that much? Did you catch yourself like going into greed mode? What was that like for you?
I've never been I'm my natural state is not greedy, protective, maybe conservative, but not greedy. I actually feel the moral consequence of being a negative impact on a community. So like if you put $50 into something and you peel off 5 million and the liquidity is not there, there's moral ramifications in my mind. So like that's something that I deal with, is that component of it more than anything. So it's about being responsible with how you act on chain for me. And I guess just little there's other things like I've burned a lot of value. Like I think there was a $1.25 million burn of SOLIDX that I did back in May, and it was to show the community that money's not the be all end all. I mean, it's nice, but it's like if this is what you need, the community, to understand that optically this is more important to the bigger picture, then that's what needs to be done. And so like it's about rising up together. You don't want to be the guy that comes in and buys a little and then it runs up a lot, and then you be the one guy that takes it all from everybody. Like that's going back to the whole Solana meme coin thing. So yeah, don't really vibe with that so much. It's kind of counter to what the whole reason why I got into this stuff in the first place. I always tell people, and this is kind of how I live, is like, if you get in low enough and you hold long enough, you're free. And the reason is because, would you rather take 100,000, like if you put $1,000 into something and let's say it runs up, would you rather have $100,000 a day, or would you rather wait and have $1,000 a day for the rest of your life? And it's like, you go past 100 days and you've already got more long-term than you ever could have had by taking it all off at once. And if everybody took that approach, the price chart would look a lot better too, I think, too. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself in that way. And I hope that other people can learn that you don't get amazing price performance on a coin from a founder being greedy at all. It's actually the complete opposite. You got to be there and give back more than you take. And we'll continue to do that as we go forward.
Nice. And shifting gears, you were talking a little bit about before around just some of the tokenomics within some of your coins, and some of the ecosystems that you're involved with. And I would just love to hear about more of, like, speaking of price go up, what some of those like tokenomics look like that are most exciting for you.
Yeah. Thank you for lobbing up that softball. That's pretty sweet. So with the creation of the Axis token in particular, the goal was always to originally create a store of value, something that had tremendous price performance, and it has. It's the only chart that I know that did 1 trillion% from the opening price. Like 1 trillion% is 10 billion X in pulse and in USD terms, and so it's like kind of crazy. And you'll have critics of all different kinds that say different things about that, but the reality is, like, today Axis trades at $5,000 a coin on PulseChain at the lows. And so if you know anything about how liquidity pools work, with no buyers, it goes up, to numbers that are just like unbelievable. And I really believe in a strong core holder base. There's not many of those guys, but you can see it all transparently on the axisALiVE.app dashboard. So I tried to pioneer a new way to view statistics and tokenomics simply and easily. We really made an effort to build a front end that was easy to use so that anybody could come and see all the Poseidon, whale, dolphin positions, see what's out there, and try to like understand, like, okay, what's the real downside liabilities of this thing, so that real big investors in the future can come in and actually take positions in these things, calculated positions with calculated risk, and be a part of the movement, right? And know what they're getting themselves into. So there's that component of it. And then there's also, as the market maker, you have to incentivize certain types of behavior to get what you want out of the community. A lot of times it looks like paying people. So like in the printer systems, it's all kind of built in, right? They like by holding the coins, you get paid more of something. But in this system, it's more like, okay, if I want to convince my community to combine certain coins together and bring their liquidity to a central pool, I'm going to have to reward them with something. So I think making strategic partnerships with other protocols really made a lot of sense. So one of those was with the 2Fux guys. So like, actually tomorrow night, the refinery pool on 2Fux is about to get a boost in voting power that's trumps every other pool on the DEX. So the Hexcom Alive pool, 3 tokens, is going to probably pay in excess of 3, 4, 500% APR with like 15 grand in there right now. And so that's like a way to try to like, look, there's obviously a very deliberate reason why the market makers want you to move into that pool, and they're willing to pay you to do it. And so then it's like a question of like, how many people, like at what price is it going to cost to get people to do what we want them to do in the, if and so they see it as a benevolent action, right?
Yeah.
And so this is definitely like more of a manual layered strategy where we're using very specific ratios of coins. This is really advanced part, but it's like a lot of work was done to make sure that the ratios of coins and pools, the incentives are there, and that there's like a revolving loop of value that continues to flow through the system, and more of it gets stuck in the system over time. And part of that is just like the very nature of how like ALiVE works. It's a derivative of Axis, but Axis has to be locked and burned for up to 8 years in order to even produce ALiVE. And so like ALiVE acts more like a currency, but it's definitely tied very much directly to the Axis supply, mathematically speaking. And so like we went through a lot of effort to make sure that there was no leaks and that the system had a reason for existing. And beyond that, there's more layers, right? So like the way that the liquidity will shift and change over time is something that you're going to want to be aware of. I think of Axis, the token, as like a lever, and SOLIDX is like a gateway. So like Axis is like pretty illiquid right now. It's got bonds to PTGC and UFO that are permanently burned, and it's got bonds to SOLIDX, and then it's got bonds to Pulse. And the bonds are most heavily with PTGC and UFO, so they're kind of like a backstop. If a big seller comes in and shoots a red candle down, well, PTGC and UFOs LP deep LP pools get hit, but they also make some money on taxes that can feed back into their own system. So it benefits them and it benefits us, because Axis doesn't go down as far, but it also fuels the buy and burn of PTGC and UFO. And then on the other hand, SOLIDX, like that pair can be added and removed over time, because SOLIDX has so much richer ticker backing. When things look really stable, or we want to stabilize things, we add more SOLIDX liquidity. When we want to make them more pumpy, we remove that. If we see a massive OG whale goes malevolent, well, remove some of that LP so that they can get punished with downside sell pressure, and then it won't take as much to push it back up. So there's like different mechanics that are employed strategically across all this, as many layers as you put, to make sure that the system has very, very long-term exciting capabilities. And part of that is making Axis light enough to move it crazy against all these other coins, but also making sure that when it needs to be stabilized at a higher price, that opportunity is there as well.
It sounds, just going back to what you had mentioned before, of just like how key the partnerships are. And then it sounds like a lot of like communicating on the blockchain, to really, I mean, like we lead by example in so many ways as leaders. And it's just interesting seeing all the different ways that you can lead and how that directly layers into tokenomics to letting people know like this is the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and until today, I've never really been that clear. I know it wasn't fully clear, but I don't want to be 100% transparent. But with my own thoughts as with one of the market makers, but that's probably the best explanation I can give you of what kind of capabilities are going to be there for a coin like Axis and a coin like SOLIDX long term. There's a lot of power there and a lot of potential. So there's probably more that I've forgotten that we talked about through text, but yeah, I think that's enough for people to chew on for now. It's definitely different from almost any other setup, I think, in the ecosystem.
Yeah. I think I love seeing crypto in the sense of like, okay, so I love seeing for anyone who doesn't know, I originally was an engineer. So I love seeing the network effect of different things, and particularly with like global supply of money, but then also the crypto world. And whenever they have like the PulseChain FUD, I'm like, well, what are the situations that PulseChain wouldn't take off? But it goes back to like, first starts off with Ethereum. And then it's like, okay, well, once Ethereum starts to move, then what naturally do people do is they look for other options where they can go front run and get more gains. And then it's like, Then once they go, so that would be AKA PulseChain. And then once they go further into that, they're like, what are some of these ecosystems that are tied liquidity wise to the base foundation? And obviously that's everything that you've just described there. And so it's looking at things with the longevity of like timelines, trust wise, capital. And I just think it's funny whenever people do have these moments of FUD, we have to just remind ourselves of like, what are the situations that price would go down versus us being in the right position and just having to wait the test of time.
And the blockchain's not going away. Like that's the bottom line is like, should make everyone feel really good. The blockchain's not going away.
Yeah.
It's I was there buying Ethereum and Bitcoin in 2018 on Coinbase when Ethereum was at $80, $81, $82, and Bitcoin was at 31.46. And I literally went and through my Coinbase transaction records the other day to reply to CZ on Twitter, because I was like, yeah, I remember when we thought Bitcoin might not make it and Ethereum might not make it, you know, and no, this feels the same way. It's like, you know, I have no doubt the blockchain's not going away. And by the way, there's a tremendous amount of power in those of you that stay. Even if the price went in a 40% range for the next 4 years, there's going to be all this, like, let's just say Pulse. There's so much opportunity built around it over that time frame anyways, that you can seize. So we're coming up on an hour here. I don't know how much longer you want to go. Usually cut it off around an hour and a half. We got 675 live. That's not too bad. We're doing a little bit better than we were before. I don't know. Do we want to look at some charts? We want to wrap up? What are you thinking?
Let's talk about adoption. I mean, that's at least onboarding adoption. Those are some of my favorite conversations. Also, we have Richard, who's been busy. Who knows what he's doing? Well, a lot of speculations, a lot of tweets, but we have the whole thicker postcards coming out at some point.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. I think we'll just that's gonna have to just be a wait and see type of game, which I mean, our blockchain is we've just been a wait and see type of squad, anyways.
Yeah, I don't really know what's all going to be in there. I thought airdropping paper wallets would have been a smart play, but it's electronic. So what is it going to be, like a greetings card? Like, you know, like Christmas bells start singing?
Pop up and open up and start projecting on your wall.
Yeah, like a holographic Richard pops up into your living room and is like, oh, shoot. Hey, Richard. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see. I'm sure look, there's a lot of contention around this whole thing. Like, some of the smart people that I talk to are like, well, why is he going manual, you know, snail mail marketing when you have digital marketing that's just so cheap and you can hit so many, you know, people? And I don't know, like, I'm not a marketing guy in that respect. I kind of see room for both, right? So maybe if you hit them with like the 1-2 punch, like you hit them with like the physical mail and then you hit them with a massive digital marketing campaign after that, it could be, you know, pretty powerful.
Yeah. And like with the digital space, so like as I've been onboarding ladies in, I live in Austin, Texas, and that is like a huge hub for just like, there's a lot of thought leadership, there's a lot of cutting edge things, but there's a lot of just like hungry people in general. People are very open and receptive to change, hence innovation. And so for me in Austin, it's also just a super social place. So I've really seen how like the social fabric and network is very strong and powerful in that sense. And I mean, whether I've been in Austin, right now I'm in DC, wherever I am in the world. Actually, I had a facial earlier today, and I'm pretty sure my facial gal, she's like, I need you to be that crypto friend to like pull me into the space. Like, it's like wherever we go, like you need that in-person touch point at this point, because I find the digital space, we're just so oversaturated. Like we're being bogged with so much on our attention that it's almost like a digital thing. I've had a lot of really great digital things convert, a lot of them, but I've also found that people just want people. They want in real life things. They want to have that friend. They want to know that something is real. And it's really going back to like this trust currency or this trust crisis, I think that we're in to some degree, where people are wondering, what can I actually trust? What's actually real?
There's a ton of wisdom there. And in my own experience in the last 3 months, more of my members have come on from personal interaction than they have from online.
Yeah.
So it's real. It's like they just want to have a lot of these people, they just want to be able to like call you if they have a question. Like, just like there's a huge divide between the crypto haves and like the normies. Like there's just like a big wall there, like that separates those two worlds. And man, it just seems like there's so much low hanging fruit now that you mention it. If we just walk out our front doors and just go talk to people like, oh, I'm in crypto. At the gym the other day, you're talking to a guy about it. He's a manager at my gym, and he's like, you know, I tried crypto in 2021. I got into one of the Ponzi's. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the lesser Voyager. He got into Voyager, 10 grand, whoop, gone. And that ruined his experience. And so he's like, yeah, no, I'm just kind of, you know, my grandpa gave me some McDonald's dividend stocks when I was, 13, and I'm loving those dividends, baby. And so it's like, and I'm just like, hey man, I know you got a bad taste in your mouth about crypto, but if you just took 3% of those dividends and you just kind of slowly deployed them into crypto, you might be surprised, right? And so it's like, they just need people that they can relate to and trust. Really, that's so deep and so true. Yeah. And I'm more motivated to go out and talk to people now. So thanks for that.
Yes, you should. And also, I find like it's like the excitement, the passion, energy. And I don't know how you are. Well, I know who you are in real life, but like with strangers talking about crypto, personally for me, there's this like, once I start to mention it, they're like, this passion is contagious. And they're like I just haven't met someone in real life who's speaking about these things, which I think is just also the funny part of like crypto being so private, and the privacy that people want to have around it. And so I just find that when you start to like speak about the passion, it just starts to ooze off in a way where like I even had one gal at like, I was at like some sauna cold plunge social event in Austin, and I was like chatting with one of my friends. We were something about crypto, and she goes, "What are you guys talking about? You look so excited." And I was like, "Oh, crypto." And she goes, "Oh, okay." But she's like, "But your energy." She's like, "I just wanted to know." And so it's just, I think that when, especially a lot of us who are like listening to the stream, it's like you've been in the space. It's like we just get to go out now and like just share what lights you up, what brings you the most amount of joy. We don't have to put like capitalistic things around it. It's literally just like you get to share your joy, and you may just help someone else in the process and change their life too.
Yeah, I mean, just explaining to people why it even brings you joy. Like the DeFi is powerful, and it's freeing. And and I mean, I got some of that. I got some of the negative stuff too. Like, hey, what do you live in your mom's basement? Type kind of conversation. It's like, no. It's like, oh, it's actually real money. I mean, yeah, I own a business. I work for myself. It's real money, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like it. I just think that there's it's like an alien world to a lot of people, and they just need to be brought into the fold. And this stuff is like amazing because it's gonna like compound to a point where it's like, okay, now there's like hundreds of thousands of people. And what's having PulseChain as a backbone is a huge component to why you and I feel good about it, is because it's real DeFi. Like, I don't know if I'd feel as good about it if I had my 7 Bitcoins on Coinbase today, right? Or whatever. And that was all I had. Like, okay, I made, 500-600 grand over like an 8-year period, and it's just sitting in Coinbase. That's not as exciting to me and the potential for it to double as it is to be in PulseChain, where it's like real DeFi, where we're making moves every other day on chain. We're seeing all this activity and innovation and growth, and people are pushing the limits of what's possible in terms of tokenomics. I mean, it's way fun. And but it can be so rudimentary and basic too. So you can meet investors at any level, and give them, there's something for them on Ethereum or on PulseChain.
Yeah. One other thing that, so bring joy. One other thing that's brought me like so much joy recently, of like, speaking of humans to humans, is part of my company. I've like started off with me. Now I have a team of 6 of us. And one of the coolest things for me has been like, yes, of course, we see like financial, like we're playing in, like, ladies are building their confidence, like they're aligned to things, they're feeling cool, calm, and collected, and like stacking their positions. But really, one of the things that has brought me so much joy is being able to hire women in and turn them into crypto mentors, and support other women with like building out their confidence as well. And so I find this like cool contagious effect, first off, of like giving women jobs in the crypto space that were not normally created. And then also like women are passing the baton along to other women in the community, but then also other women in their own community, in their own life. And like, that's like really DeFi in itself, of like,
That's network effect.
Yeah, exactly. Network, and the network does its job.
Human network effect. I love it.
Yeah.
And in my own neck of the woods, it goes through a process of, because of the great success the Axis token has had, I've been able to use that as a lever to acquire team members, or, you know, fund projects, or things of that nature. So that was cool how the actual currency itself lended itself to growth, right? So it's been, and so like, you know, like I always think of like Markable. Markable has been in Hex since like 2020, and he always was a good video animator. And when he came to work for me originally, it was when I really started to see him like level up as an animator and as a graphic artist, and like a lot of the video content that started the stream off, that's all his work. And he's been able to grow from, you know, like a starving artist to be like, and, you know, in a down Hex market, to now he's doing really well. And now he works on a full scale team for the SOLIDX. And just so it's cool. I totally agree with you. It's, the network effect is very real, but also there's real there's real growth that happens in a human sense too from a lot of this stuff. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. The network effect is very strong and very real here on PulseChain. Just look around at like the Vegas event, and you see projects like Actuator, which is like the greatest, I think the greatest Hex protocol add-on ever. Created the super bonds. You know, crispy man goes wild over it because of the potential of how TradFi guys could leverage that to really get value out of Hex long term. Or like there's another one that I didn't mention earlier in my many layered approach of the solid index, which was LPX, which is coming out from the Up and UpX team, and Artem, who has experience in centralized exchanges, building trading software that allows the market maker to generate a revenue stream and make sure that the prices perform well over the long term. And now that's coming on chain to PulseChain. Matter of fact, I think they're supposed to make an announcement today. So I just keep seeing a lot of good things happening, you know, all the little things that were, you know, here and gone in a flash of a pan. It's just part of the process, but the good things are going to stick long term.
Yeah. And I find once again, it's a reminder of like, humans are the ones who create value. Like AXA, as you were saying that, I was like, wow, yeah, you really did create all of that. Like, you created value. And then from there, like, the world then gets to adopt the value. Like, we create it and then it does something with that. And I very much have felt that as well, but I think and we don't have to wait on Richard to be able to do these things. In fact, like us builders haven't. We've been off here doing these things, and people have adopted it, and people have given things value to it. And that's going to be the trajectory that we continue to keep on going, is like, once people do hit that tipping point of coming into PulseChain, they're going to be like, who have been the other builders here? And then we all, of course, get to win exponentially. And then whoever else comes in that front wave also gets to win quite well as well. But at the end of the day, humans are the things that create the value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And there's definitely more open arms now to all sorts of different kinds of projects now. And people are bullish on all sorts of things that are outside of just like the base core coins, which is, I think it's a good step forward. Versus like toxic maximalism, which it's kind of outdated now at this point, I would say. Yeah. I mean, the charts speak for themselves. Like you can't deny the liquidity in the charts. Like it's real. It's, you know, I've seen members have huge run-ups and very proud of these guys. So yeah, it's about believing in something bigger than yourself. Yeah.
At what point, I'm curious, because like I can definitely tell just how emotionally, like the emotional intelligence that has come with you, but also just like the calm. And what point for you in the crypto world did that flip from the riding the waves to just like the calm neutrality all the way throughout a lot of the time?
I think it was layered. It was I mean, the full story briefly was, you know, getting into crypto in 17 and not really knowing what I was doing, just piecing together computer components to mine, not really knowing that much about trading. And so at that point, like, it was all inspiration and excitement, right? So there was like the living on the high of just being inspired by this new technology.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I started, it was sometime when the community started to accept me. I'm talking about the Hex and Ink community in 2021. And I started leveling up my own skill set in trading and charting, and that I really started to feel accepted into something bigger. And that gave me the confidence to start to just feel good about where the space was going and get behind something that I thought had a lot of merit long term. And then, you know, the following year, Candace and I started axisALiVE.com, and then that's really when I really evolved as a person and as a businessman, and saw potential in sticking around here and just being a part of it long term, because I knew that it had so much potential. And yeah, I would say that around the SEC FUD, the original drop on Pulse, I was a little edgy because I was now responsible for like 80 members at that point, and I was like, you know, I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I just had to have faith. And one of my good friends, Hexagon 720, kind of just, you know, in my moment of darkness, was just like, hey man, stuff's not going away. And he's like, oh yeah, duh, it's all good. And then at the bottom, I launched, it was right before that SEC wick is when I stealth launched Axis token. And so my only goal was to keep it a secret for as long as possible and make sure that it performed. And I had no expectations. And ever since then, I felt pretty good about things. So we're in the right place. We're on the right track, and we're going to do amazing things for this world. There's no doubt about that. I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Yeah. And once again, it's like humans create value, and also humans lift humans up.
Yeah, that goes for you too. I've always been impressed. So it's been a pleasure having you on the stream. I think there's a lot more to come from you, and you have a lot to teach people in regards to what it means to be a part of something bigger, and definitely involving just like not just the financial element, but the spiritual and mental components as well. And leading a bunch of women in that way, I'm sure is a Herculean task. And hey, I'm happy to, if you ever want to collab on things, happy to help out where I can, be a voice of reason, can lend my expertise. And for all the people watching the stream today, I'm just really privileged and very happy and grateful to be a part of this community, and just telling you guys that, guys, the best is yet to come for sure for Hex and for PulseChain. So thank you so much.
This was such a fun stream. Thanks, Axis.
You bet. All right, 753 live. We're going to take off. We'll hopefully see us again soon. All right.
Sounds
Thanks,
great.
guys. All right. Later.